Hey everybody, Coach Toolshed here, and today I'm going to bring you a video you probably weren't expecting. You were probably expecting a video about me ripping Bethesda a new one for having a security breach. That's not what this video is about. No, today's video is going to be about the 2018 Game Awards, which will be taking place just a few hours from now, and I just wanted to real quick start a discussion with you guys and sort of get your general feel for this down in the comments below about, I'm not going to sit here and read off every category. I think videos like that tend to drone on a bit. I'm just going to talk about the 6 nominees for 2018 Game of the Year, give you my thoughts on them. Now, this is not my top 6 picks for Game of the Year. Some of these games will not even be in my top 10 for sure, but a couple of them definitely would be as well. But I just wanted to give you my quick thoughts on the 6 titles that were nominated for Game of the Year, and then I want really to open it up to you guys to give me some feedback down in the comments. Let me know what you guys think about these titles, how many of these have you played, because I've actually played all of these. I haven't beaten all of them, but I have played all 6 of these games, and coincidentally, if you wanted to play all of these titles, I believe the only way you could play all of these is if you owned a Sony PlayStation 4. I think that is the only platform on which you can play all 6 of these games. So that's actually kind of unique. Last year, you had to have at least 3 different, you had to have a Nintendo and a PlayStation and either an Xbox or PC to play all of the Game of the Year nominees. So this year, you could play it all in one spot if you own a PS4. If not, well, you're going to be missing out on some of these because there's a couple Sony exclusives, and so those games obviously will not be available anywhere but the PS4. But let's just take a quick look at these games, and I'll give you my quick rundown of thoughts. So let's just get the first one out of the way right away, which is going to be Celeste from a small indie developer called Matt Makes Games. Now, this is an indie darling. This is a game that is nominated really primarily. I don't really hear anyone talking about this game, but early on in the year, this was a game that the mainstream media types were just gushing about because it tells the triumphant story of a young girl who climbs her way up a mountain. And I'll be honest, this game is, I tried playing it. The bottom line is I'm just not very good at 2D platformers, and this is a challenging 2D platformer for someone of, you know, not so great platforming skills. There's a reason why I don't play games like Super Meat Boy, is because I just can't play them. I'm not saying this game is as difficult as that, but it was difficult enough for me that I got pretty frustrated. Now, the interesting thing about this game is that the narrative of the game actually involves you overcoming adversity and dealing with frustrations and sort of climbing to the top of the mountain. The name of Celeste comes from the name of the mountain in the game. It's Mount Celeste that you climb in the game. It's not actually the name of the protagonist, which does throw some people off. But however, that it is tied into the narrative of the game that you're supposed to be overcoming adversity. So the fact that I gave up and didn't want to overcome the adversity to this game, I sort of didn't play into their narrative there. But as a result, this is a game that I would not have anywhere near my top 10. I think there's a lot better indie games that came out this year, including some 2D games that had platforming elements, but this is a straight platforming game, and it's just not my style. I have a few gaming blind spots when it comes to skills, and platforming games, like hardcore platforming games, is one of them, and this was a little bit too difficult for me. Maybe you had no problems with it at all, and if so, great. Maybe you did play it. I don't know too many. I honestly don't know anyone that played this game. I don't hear anyone talking about it, but I do know that the media types were just gushing about it. 10 of 10, you know, just praising. This is another situation. We see it every year. There's always at least one indie darling game that just gets propped up a little bit more than it probably should have, and this is the pick for this year, is Celeste. So let's just move on to the next one. And the next game I'm going to throw at you is a little bit of a surprise to get onto this list, and that's going to be Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Now, why is it a surprise? Well, for one, the Assassin's Creed series has gone downhill over the last few years. Now, they did bounce back last year with Origins. Many people thought that that was a good game, and I will be honest, I have said this before, if you have never played an Assassin's Creed game, if you've never played really many Ubisoft games, and Assassin's Creed Odyssey is the first game from them that you pick up and play, you will probably think it's a very good game. However, a lot of people are burnt out on the formula. Some people are really mad about the microtransactions, the grind for XP that they ran into in the game. But I will say, from the time that I played, this is one of the games that I have not quite beaten yet because it's very long. But I have put a good amount of time into it, and it is good. It's a good game. The reviews for it are not really super high, however, which is why I found it odd that it was going to be included in the finalists for Game of the Year, because it only reviewed in the low 80s, and generally that's not the type of score that will get you into the conversation, but some people really love it, and some people think that it's even better than another nominee on this list, Red Dead Redemption 2, because it does a lot of things it does some things very similarly, and they're both very large, story-driven, open-world games, so a lot of people compare them because of that, but they're also extremely different in many other ways, and some people just prefer the faster pace of Assassin's Creed Odyssey compared to Red Dead Redemption 2. That's a topic for another day. I'm just throwing that out there. Some people have compared it. I was actually thinking about doing a comparison video between the two games at one point, and I might still get to that at some point later on down the line, maybe at the beginning of next year, but we'll have to see how that goes. But anyway, Assassin's Creed Odyssey, I think, is actually a good game. Is it Game of the Year material? Maybe not. For some people it is. For me, I don't think it is. I will not put this game at the top of my list. Would it make my top 10 for 2018? Yeah, probably so, from what I've played this year. Probably so. But I haven't made my own coach list yet. But we'll see how that goes in a few weeks. But moving on to the next game. Let's take a look at Marvel's SpiderMan, which is, of course, a PS4 exclusive. So if you don't have a PS4, unfortunately, you're not going to be able to play it. But this is a game that sold a ton of copies. It got great reviews pretty much across the board. I did my own review here on the channel if you guys want to go and check that out. My main problem with the game wasn't really the game itself, because a lot of it is really good. The mechanics of the game are excellent. Some of the tightest controls, some of the greatest traversal mechanics that I've ever played in a game. And obviously, you can see on the screen, it looks fantastic as well. My main problem with the game came from the repetitive nature of the side missions. I thought some of the side content really dragged down the experience, and since the side content was about half of the game, I didn't think that it was really quite fully fleshed out for this type of game. It was relatively short if you just did the mainline story, and there was really only one meaty side quest, and most of the rest of the side content I found to just be really pretty tedious and, I don't know, a little bit overkill. But other than that, I think if they had cut out some of that stuff and added maybe one or two more meaty storylines for side quests, I think this game really could have pushed itself over the top. As a result, my entire view on this, it's mechanically fantastic. Maybe, actually yes, I would say this is my favorite game on the list as far as pure gameplay mechanics, like the traversal, the combat, the movement. As far as all the nominees on this list, SpiderMan mechanically, technically nails it beautifully. It's one of the best games I've ever played in that regard. However, the actual implementation of the side quests and a lot of the side content in the game really did drag down the experience for me. So for me, this game's kind of a mixed bag. Technically brilliant, content-wise, I think they could have done better. However, the story and the main game is actually relatively solid. I don't think it's great. It's relatively solid. This game will be... I would definitely put this game in my coach's top 10 for the year. I don't think it's quite as good as some people do, but this is a solid game. If you want to pick this up, if this is the game that you maybe want to pick up, if you see it on sale for a lower price, it's a relatively short game if you just do the mainline content. I think this is a really good game this year. So this next game's probably going to get me into a bit of trouble with some of you. Maybe not all of you, but some of you for sure, and that's going to be Monster Hunter World. Now, when this game came out back in January, I was not really doing commentary videos at all. A year ago, I was not doing any sort of commentary reviews or opinion videos or anything like that. And when this game came out, I had sort of a love-hate relationship for it, and at the end, I started getting more and more towards the hate side of things, I will be honest. Now, I know some of you, I've talked to you some of the comments, some of you guys love this game. Now, let me explain my position on it. I played through the entire game, I rolled credits, and I beat some of the optional monsters after, and I kept grinding, and I kept grinding, and then I got to the point where it's like, okay, all you're having me do is go through and beat I've already beaten this monster 5 times at this difficulty, and then you amped up the difficulty and I beat the same monsters again multiple times to grind more gear, and then you up the difficulty again and I'm still fighting the same monsters. And it got to the point where it's still like, okay, if every one of these fights that I go all out on is sort of like a boss fight, and that's how they present it, every creature you go out and fight is sort of like a boss. But after you've beaten the same bosses multiple times, and there's only a handful of different maps that you're going to fight on, and you're going to be, I don't know, it's just not a game or really a series that spoke to me. It's insanely grindy, and I know that some people say that that's the entire point of the game, and it's also a game that has a very passionate fan base. I found that out the hard way. And they're also the sort of people who say that if you've only played the game for 100 hours, you haven't played the game at all. It doesn't matter if you've rolled credits on it or not. My whole thing was, all I'm doing is grinding the same monsters over and over again to hope that I get the RNG drops that I need off them to craft the armor so I can go to the next tier up and fight the same monsters again. And I kind of got to the point where I'm like, okay, I think I get it. This game really isn't for me. It might be for you. To me, it just, I had some fun with it. There's some co-op fun you can be had with you and your friends. If you want to go in and team up, you can have up to 4 people in your party. But I'll be honest, this is just not a game for me. I tried, I really did. I gave it over 100 hours. It's just not for me. Let's go on to the next one. And the next 2 games are actually going to be, I think most people would consider these to be the top 2 contenders for Game of the Year, and that's why I'm saving them for last. We're going to be looking at God of War and Red Dead Redemption 2. I think most people, if they were going to say, what do you think are the 2 games that are really slugging it out for Game of the Year, these would be the 2 games they would mention. So since Red Dead Redemption 2 just came out and is fresh in everyone's mind, I'm not going to give you too much of a recap, but I did put up a video a few weeks ago discussing some of the stuff that I thought was good and bad about the game. Now, I've played plenty since then. I've talked about the online components of that as well. Just looking at it from a single-player perspective, though, I think that Red Dead Redemption 2 does a lot of stuff very well, and I think that it does a few things very poorly. Now, I've already discussed how I am not a fan of the extremely finicky controls. I'm not a huge fan of the gunplay, the fact that Rockstar, for all its money and everything else, still can't seem to create a third-person shooting system that feels good, so they have to still rely on the auto-aim, and I'm just not a huge fan of that in 2018. There's plenty of third-person shooters that do this very well, and I really wish Rockstar had fixed that aspect of the game, but they chose not to. So the controls for me are a major drawback. The clunkiness of the gameplay in that way is not great, and I know some people also don't like that it is a very slowly paced game. Now for me, that's not a problem. I didn't have a problem with that at all. For me, it was more the mechanical issues of the character control and all that I'm really having the biggest issue with still to this point in both single player and online modes. But aside from that, I mean, a lot of the single player stuff, the graphics, the lighting effects, the story, the characters, all of it is done very well. Now, something I didn't discuss in my last video about Red Dead Redemption 2 that I do have another issue with is that I wish Rockstar, I know Rockstar is trying to tell a specific story, and I can respect that. My issue with it is that the missions themselves give you no leeway whatsoever in how you go about accomplishing the missions. You are told exactly what to do at all times. There's going to be a mark on your screen telling you exactly where you have to stand to initiate the next part of the mission, and that to me, in 2018, I think that we should be past the point where an open world game that is going to emphasize, oh, you can live real life. This is a cowboy simulator. This is like a real life simulator for the late 1800s. Well, then let me simulate thinking my way through my own missions a little bit, Rockstar. That would be great. I wish they would evolve in that way. And this is something I did not mention at all in my last video, but it's something that struck me the more and more I played. I was being told, go stand over there, Arthur, go stand over there, ride your horse over there. It's like, well, what if I want to go over there and try this? I think that looks like a better spot for me over there, but no, you're told exactly what to do at all times, and I'm not a huge fan of that. However, I mean, a lot of the game is excellently done. Some of the best you're going to find. There's certainly no denying that it graphically looks fantastic. It is one of the most realistic games you're ever going to see. The real-life simulation, if you're into the slower pace, it's all there for you. If that's the sort of experience you're looking for. Now, a lot of people were not looking for that from a Rockstar game, so I think that threw a lot of people for a surprise. But at the end of the day, the game still is excellently done. And I think, honestly, that this is the game that will win the award for Game of the Year. I think that this is the game that it will go to. Is it my personal Game of the Year? Probably needs to... honestly, I still need to play a little bit more of it before I can make a conclusive decision on that. Right now, I'm leaning towards no. Because right now, I think that God of War, which is the final game on this list, I think God of War at this point still edges out Red Dead Redemption 2 for me for 2018. Now, is God of War going to be Coach's own 2018 Game of the Year? Well, maybe. Still haven't made that list. It might be. But I still haven't made that list, like I said. But it would out of these 6 games, I would say God of War would be my personal pick that I would like to see win, because I think God of War is one of the rare games that really doesn't have a glaring problem. Now, I know some people don't like the combat, some people don't like the weapon variety, that you don't have much different movesets throughout the game. Now, you do get more stuff to use at your disposal in combat as the game goes on. But I can understand the complaint that some people have that there just wasn't too much variety there. Also, some people weren't really a huge fan of the lack of enemy variety. You do tend to fight the same sort of minion enemies again and again. So that also is an issue with the game. But the presentation of the game, the art design of the game, the graphics of the game, all of it is top-notch. There's some parts of the game that are just... I've never seen other games match. With the particle effects and the lighting effects and some of the indoor areas, just out of this world. Now, as a result, they had to make some drawbacks. The draw distance for the game is not very good. It smudges out at a pretty short distance. But the up-close visuals of the game are some of the best that I've ever seen in any game, especially for a game on a PS4. It's not really even running. It's not running on a high-end PC or even an Xbox One X. It's running on PS4, and it still looks better than pretty much anything that I've played, especially in those interior areas. It looks fantastic. It's also a game that doesn't demand, 100, 200 hours of your time to get the full experience. You can consume the entire game. It's still meaty. It's still lengthy, but to me, 50 hours for a game of this type is that's a really nice length. I don't think it really needs to be much longer than that when it comes to game length these days. These games that last 100, 150 hours, I just don't see the need unless it's going to be a multiplayer-based game. And God of War also, no DLC, no microtransactions. The game is done, and the game is done. You can put it down. Other games, everyone in the industry, please take note. You can sell a $60 game that is single player only without DLC, no add-ons, no cosmetic skins. No, I think they had a deluxe edition for 10 extra bucks and you could get a couple of extra things in the game. That is true. But the game never tries to sell you anything else. It's not dangling more DLC, like come back and play, like a desperate ex being like, hey, I think I left my shoes over your house. You think you can check for me? I'll call you tomorrow. It's not harassing you in that way. When you beat the game, it's done. And for me, in 2018, that alone sets it above a lot of other games. It's a full-length AAA game that has a media experience. I can't really point out many flaws with the game. That's the whole thing about it. I think it does. Even the stuff that people complain about, I still think it does well. Maybe not excellent, but I think it does pretty much everything you could ask for well. Story, presentation, overall just graphics, combat, the crafting, everything. And it didn't need any day one patches to fix everything. The game launched in a perfectly fine state. Couple bugs here and there, but God of War launched fine. To me, this is the template that other companies should use moving forward. when it comes to their games, and this is a game that proves you don't need all that excess crap to make buckets of money off of the player base as long as you make an actual quality product. Thank you, God of War, and thank you to Sony for giving the studio the time to make this game and for providing them the time needed to get this game out the door. Kudos to both of them. And for me, that's why I put this game above these other 5 games in this category. And that is why God of War would be my pick at the Video Game Awards tonight. But like I said, I'm pretty sure Red Dead will end up winning it because the media just is having a complete love affair with it. So I think it's inevitable. Similar to the way Grand Theft Auto walked away with everything in 2013. I think Red Dead's going to do the same thing tonight because the media is just fawning over it. Anyway, that's it for me. I'm Coach Toolshed. I just wanted to give you guys my quick rundown about the top 6 games according to the Game Awards. This is sort of the official one for the industry. This is the official award show. So, just sort of throwing this out there. Let me know what you guys think. How many of these games have you guys played? A lot of you have probably beaten some of these games that I haven't beaten yet. So let me know what you guys think about these down in the comments below. Do you think this? And let me also ask you this: do you think that this was an up year or a down year for games? Because I was looking at the list from last year and looking at some of the secondary lists. I think that this year might have better games at the top, but I think that once you get out of the sort of the upper tier of games this year, I think this was kind of a down year overall. I think last year and maybe even the year before that, 2015 for sure. 2017 and 2015, I think we had better years overall. But this year, I think the top end stuff, we had some really good stuff in there, and I think there's some really good indies that sort of got overlooked that maybe should have been there ahead of Celeste. But anyway, let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. Please subscribe if you want to stay in tune with the channel head forward, and I got a lot more content coming up real soon. Bethesda is keeping me so busy. I can't even get these videos out the door fast enough. But anyway, let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. I will talk to you guys later, and as always, keep it turned to 11.